Welcome to Hope Through the Hard, a curated coalition podcast where we talk honestly about life struggles and how to face them in a healthy, hope-filled way. In 2 Corinthians 4, Paul says, "We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed." That's what this space is about, real conversations about the hard things in life and the hope that carries us through.
And I'm Levi, and this is Ashley. And Lincoln is in the background running all the stuff for us today. And the other kiddos are out running around as it's nice weather outside.
It is.
So, and you can go to curatedcoalition.com and check out our coaching that we provide. And kid question.
There's a kid question.
Always
Always
going to be a kid question. What is your favorite meal? Not just food.
My favorite meal?
Favorite meal.
Oh, gosh. Crab cakes from Alligator Soul.
With what else?
I don't care what comes with it. I just want the crab cakes.
Just the crab cake.
Yes. It usually comes with some sort of side, but I mostly love it because I don't have to make it myself.
Gotcha.
It's one of the few places we can go and I can get something to eat and not have to worry about if I'm going to be sick later or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we're always hoping. For me, favorite meal, like a full-on meal, it's going to have either a steak or brisket with a potato, probably loaded with everything on it.
Baked? Baked potato?
I'll take a baked potato, but
Okay.
if you do French fries and then you put chili and cheese and onions on top of that too, and then you have to have a side, I guess, baked beans to go with that, and then 15, 16 rolls,
Okay.
hot rolls with the butter and the honey butter and
Lambert's style?
Lambert style works for
Okay.
me.
Okay.
I love some Lambert rolls, especially
Okay.
when they throw them at you. So, that sound good to you?
No, not at all.
So, today we're talking about family relationships. And so, family relationships are hard. And most of us struggle at some point how to handle those difficult situations with one person or multiple people
Right.
in our families. And we are told by the church that we are supposed to show love, we are supposed to show grace all the time, and with that, honor your mother and father no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's a promise, and if you don't, then you're going to die early, which, okay. I get to go to heaven sooner. Awesome. But with that, I think that is a key part of how we kind of miss this is what does that verse really talk about? What's it really meaning of honoring? We can dive into that later, but I think with family members, especially with parents, as you become an adult, what does that mean? What does that look like? Because you too have to take care of yourself. You need to stay safe. You need to be healthy. And so we want to talk about boundaries and what that might look like depending on your situation of how to kind of help educate you, but then what we've kind of gone through a little bit of taking places with that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first thing that I want to address is that boundaries are holy. Boundaries are something that God created in the garden. He put Adam and Eve down in the garden and he said, eat this, eat this, eat this, eat this. Don't eat that.
Yeah.
That was the boundary. Eat anything you want, but not that. And so when Eve took the fruit and she ate it and she gave it to Adam, they broke that boundary. They trespassed that boundary. And God had to do something about that. There had to be a consequence for them trespassing that boundary. And that consequence was a reduced access to God and a removal of their freedom. And so then they had increased rules and increased boundaries. That is something that I think the church doesn't often talk about because we're told we have to just be the peacemaker and that boundaries aren't, that's not something God wants. He just wants everybody to get along. And of course he does. We are all his children. He does want that. But he also set the example in the very first book, in the very first section, that boundaries are necessary.
Right.
And the other thing is that consequence was for Adam and Eve's protection.
Yeah.
It wasn't God saying, I want to be cruel to you people who I just made, who I love so much and I made in my image. That's not what he was saying. He was saying, this boundary was here for your protection. And since you trespassed on that protection, I'm going to have to give you a consequence. I don't want to be mean to you. This isn't about being mean or punishing you. It's just a consequence.
Yeah.
And so that's what boundaries really are.
Yeah. And even come from a ministry side, I didn't learn how to say no, to draw up boundaries of things, because I just thought that I was just supposed to give. And then you start reading scripture and it's like Jesus had boundaries as well.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus walked into crowds and he didn't heal everybody. He
Right.
didn't give everybody food every single time. He didn't just make miracles happen every way, shape, and form, because he had boundaries and there was a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And with his goals and his purpose of the situations was his plan. And he has purposes and plans for us too.
Right.
And if we don't set up those boundaries, we may miss what God really has. Proverbs 25:28, like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. That's a great verse of talking about if we don't have self-control to protect ourselves, then we're a city with our gates wide open and anybody can come through. The devil's going to come through and bad things are going to happen to us if we don't protect ourselves.
Right.
And have some boundaries. I think the church doesn't necessarily approach this in some of these things of it's okay to take care of yourself and say no. You must have a safe place and safe people around you to practice that.
Yeah.
For me, it had to be with you of saying no and learning how to say that, and you encouraging me all the time of say no.
Yeah.
And we kind of had that, but there's fear of drawing boundaries.
Yeah.
Because then that meant I couldn't be a hero in some ways, or I couldn't make somebody happy, which was hard for me in doing ministry and with families as well.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings and take a risk of losing that relationship with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. In our learning and in our study, I have read two fantastic books, Good Boundaries and Goodbye by Lisa Turkhurst, and then Boundaries by Doctors Cloud and Townsend. And both of those have kind of helped. I've taken bits and pieces from both of those books to kind of put together what you should do when you're setting boundaries with someone. And the first step that you need to do is when you are setting boundaries, especially with someone in your family, is have a script. Know what you're going to say before you walk into that situation where you're drawing up those boundaries. And then the second major thing that you need to do before you can even start to set the boundaries is to use really clear statements where you focus on your needs. Say, I need whatever. Because those are the things that are going to help you communicate clearly with the person what you need. Maybe it's, I need some space. I need just a little bit of space from you. And then you can move on from there. And Lisa Turkhurst gives in her book, Good Boundaries and Goodbyes, some questions that I think are really helpful to help you figure out, what boundaries do I even need? Like sometimes when you've been in ministry or when you've been in the church for so long, you're so used to just being steamrolled that you don't even know what your own needs are.
Right.
And so the first thing is, what do I need to do in this relationship so that I can stay consistent in all of my other relationships with my character and my conduct and my communication? Because you shouldn't be one person in one relationship and one person in another relationship. What do I need to do so that I'm a consistent person? And then the second thing is huge, in my opinion. What is my capacity? What do I have the capacity to give this person? Does this relationship stretch me beyond what I am capable of giving with my time, with my energy, with my fame? Like, am I stretching beyond what I am capable of doing realistically or even generously? And then the third thing is, am I able to communicate with this person without being punished and without being pushed away? Because if you can't communicate with this person without being punished or without being pushed away, you obviously need a boundary. And then the fourth step, what are some realistic restrictions that I can place on myself? Are there realistic restrictions that I can place on myself? Can I say, I am happy to do this with you once a month, but not once a week? I would love to speak with you on the phone, but I can only give you 10 minutes, not 2 hours. What are some realistic restrictions that you can put on yourself? Is this person, this is question number 5, is this person having, hey, Lovey, having unpredictable behavior that's negatively impacting my life? Are they erratic? When I look at the phone, am I afraid because you never know what version of the person you're going to get? Are they going to guilt me today or are they going to praise me today? So is this person having unpredictable behavior that's affecting the rest of my life? Question number 6, am I suffering the consequences from someone else's decisions more than that person is suffering the consequence of their decisions? Then it's time for a boundary. Absolutely. And then number 7 is, what are the boundaries that I'm willing to have in this relationship?
And you've done a lot of studying. You've read a lot of books on all of this, which is great, of the examples that you just gave of just even small amounts. And we try to share hard things that's happened in our lives so we can connect with you all. And with that, be able to show and help anybody that may be struggling with these things. And with it, talking about families, and we have dealt with that with our family members and had to draw up some boundaries, set some boundaries with our family. You want to share a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I can. But I would say, before I say anything, if you had asked me 1 year ago, hey, Ashley, do you think that you're going to be talking about boundaries with family and be okay with that?
Yeah.
No way. Absolutely not. But creating healthy boundaries has given us peace that we can heal and we can let go of hurt and we cannot be bitter. We cannot be angry. And that's been huge. Yeah. And then the second thing that I would say is, what I'm going to share is a much larger story, much more nuanced, with lots of players and lots of things going on. But I'm going to try to give it in kind of a 30,000 foot view so that we can still have the hope for reconciliation in the future, especially with one side of our family where reconciliation hasn't happened.
Right.
But just know that this is a 30,000 foot view. It is a very close story for both of us. And we don't want to in any way risk a future reconciliation.
Right.
Yeah. Is there anything else you would add to that preface?
No, I think what we want to try to be is as authentic as we possibly can.
Right.
And with all the stories that we share, which we've shared those, but out of respect of other people are involved in relationships, we want to respect them in a way so there is reconciliation.
Yeah. Okay. So I will say, like you said, both of us have had to set boundaries with our family.
Yep.
One of our families didn't respect the spouse. So we're not going to say which side was which, but one of our families didn't respect the spouse. The other side of the family, through a series of events, was having conversations with our children without our knowledge about us and about what kind of parents we were, what kind of people we were, and the choices that Lovey is having a hard day today. Talking poorly about us for years, and we didn't know that was going on. So with both sides of the family, and we set boundaries with both. We each had private conversations, you with your side, me with my side, in effort to attempt to resolve each of the scenarios. Right. And we laid out those needs individually, and like you would lay out your needs individually. I laid out my needs. We both laid out the needs that we had as a family and the needs that our kids had as a group and individually. So there was a lot. Like we tried.
And a lot of time that took place in all that too.
Yeah.
It wasn't just all of a sudden I'm drawing the line and I'm done. It's here's the situation. Can we work on this? Here's how I feel with this. Can we change this?
Right.
So it's figuring out those boundaries, what worked, what didn't, because
Right.
sometimes we would try to draw those, it didn't work, or others wouldn't follow it.
Right. And so one side of our families, like one side has accepted the boundary. One side has respected the boundary and attempted to move forward within the boundary. It's still not an ideal relationship. And it's still not perfect, but it is closer to reconciliation. The other side of the family, I would say, has not been willing to accept those boundaries. They've pushed back very hard on those boundaries. They have not respected the wishes of us as the parents or of the children. Reconciliation has not happened yet.
Right.
And I say yet.
Right.
Like that has not happened yet. We are still praying and hopeful that it will.
Right. And that's the deal, is that many times people look at, oh, I'm putting up boundaries because it's a punishment. You hurt me.
It's a reaction.
And immediately we're going to punish you because this is what you're doing. And some people do. Some people do that, but that's not the reason why you should put up boundaries. It shouldn't be as a punishment because what we're trying to do is protect our hearts. Yeah. We want our heart to be healthy and safe. We want to put ourselves in a safe situation. We want our kids to be healthy and in a safe space to be able to share and not have all the trauma. We want to have our relationship to be healthy and safe. And so that's the reasons why the boundaries have to go up. It's not necessarily as a punishment to anybody.
Right.
Yes, it hurts.
Sure.
Whenever we want something or want a relationship with somebody and somebody cuts us off, that does hurt, but it's not for a punishment. It's to help protect us.
Yeah.
And families' unprotected behavior creates chaos in a family. And so communicating, I think, is huge to have those boundaries as we live life, to take the chaos and put it into some boundaries, put it into a box. So then our life isn't chaos.
Right.
And then it's a constant battle. And we've dealt with this where we would fight each other, not because of anything of us, but because of these other relationships.
Right.
And the boundaries weren't there. And that chaos overflows into the entire home.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to create a safer space where, yes, the chaos is always going to be there of this relationship. And we want to put some boundaries in it and kind of put it in its spot. So then we can still live in a safe space and have some healthy spots. But also when it's time to bring up the situations or connect with the family members, then you prepare and go into those situations. But whenever the boundaries aren't there, that chaos is going to run your family.
Right. Yeah. And it definitely did. Yeah. In both of those individual situations.
Right.
So, and I would also say in the situation that has not yet resolved, when we attempted communication, that was often punished, which is one of those 10 questions that Lisa Turkhurst says, can you communicate without being pushed away or punished? Right. And if the answer is no, then you've got to have a boundary. And so part of that for that boundary was we have to be able to communicate without being punished. And without being blamed for things that weren't necessarily our responsibility. I'm happy to take the heat for something that I've done.
Right.
But if we can't communicate openly and honestly without blame or punishment, then it's time for a boundary.
Right. Right. Well, and that's very difficult to take that extra step, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to lay down the boundary stuff because we continually get fed so much different information out there. here's this misconception of
Mm-hmm.
what boundaries are, what they look like,
Yeah.
and how people apply them or when people apply them.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say for sure in one of those scenarios with family members that we struggled with, it was often thrown out that we were just angry.
Mm-hmm.
That we were just bitter and we were angry, and so we were putting up boundaries. And it's like, whoa, no, no, the situation does in fact make me angry. And that anger is like a little like flashing red light that says, you probably need a boundary with this person.
Right.
And so we're gonna feel anger when we're setting boundaries. And that's good because that tells you that the boundary is necessary. So yes, anger is part of it, but
Right.
anger is not the driving force in setting that boundary. The driving force in setting the boundary is protection.
Yeah.
And so just knowing that you're not setting a boundary because you're bitter. You're setting the boundary so that you can, like you were talking about, control the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a capacity to fulfill the calling that God has on your life.
Right. Yeah. Pour into that.
Yeah. And so, because when you're spending so much time managing chaos and trying to corral the chaos and then managing the feelings of the people in the family, and okay, your feelings were hurt, and okay, you feel broken about this, the words that were spoken or something that you overheard. You're spending so much time trying to pull that chaos back into that little fence or that little gate. And you are missing all of that time. That is time that the enemy is maximizing because you are not in the calling that God has for you. You aren't hearing where he is leading you, and you are not able to fulfill the things that he has in front of you or you for your family, whatever. And your kids, your spouse, they're not able to fulfill their calling either because you're managing chaos. Everybody's managing chaos.
Yeah. And I struggled with that, saying no.
Mm-hmm.
Got to know how to say no. So then the chaos can sit here, and then I can do the things of what God's really calling me to do as a father, as a husband, and reaching other people as well.
Yeah. And that's good because we're responsible for stewarding our own lives. Like, we have to be the responsible party. It's not anybody else's job to handle your feelings or your thoughts or your behavior. You have to handle those. And by the same token, it's not your job to handle anyone else's thoughts, feelings, or behaviors. And so when you learn to say, oh, I'm so sorry, that sounds like a horrible thing. I would love to pray for you for the next 15 minutes. I'm going to pray over you, and I'm going to spend some time sitting here with you. But that's what I can give you right now. That sounds harsh, but if that's what you can give that person, if that is what your capacity is, because you have responsibilities to other people, then you give that 15 minutes to that person and you do the best you can. But then it's not up to you to manage what their thoughts or feelings or behaviors are past that. And you can check in with them, of course. Right. You can obviously do that, but you have to protect God's investment in your life. Right. And I think that that's something that the church just doesn't consider, is that Jesus on that cross bought our life. And he has an investment in you fulfilling your calling on this earth. Yeah. And so when we waste it running around managing chaos and, controlling situations because we didn't build good boundaries, we are risking that investment. Yeah. We're putting that investment in danger.
Big time.
So
big time. Yeah. And you miss out on a bunch of things.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the misconception of putting up the boundaries is disobedient and you're not obeying, and which then inside of you just kind of has rebellion that's going to take place as well. Mm-hmm. We're told if we just obey our parents, even as adults.
Yeah. Yeah.
Children obey your parents. I don't necessarily agree with some of those situations of what they say. It's a misconception that you're still being treated as a child. And that's a different thing because you're called to a unique calling, and that's outside of what your parents' calling is.
Right.
Or anybody else that you may be trying to put up boundaries with.
Ouch.
Right?
Yeah. Because my calling isn't our kids' calling.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so our kids are going to go do some amazing things that we can't control. They're going to put up boundaries with us. Understand. But I think that's a misconception that happens of, well, you're not a loving person then.
Right.
And you're not being obedient with this. And we're all called to do things a different way. And so another thing is boundaries are permanent and burn bridges, which isn't true.
No.
Sadly, so many people think that if you start to build up a boundary and I built up this wall, I cut the bridge and we'll never talk again. It's not the way it should be. It should be conversations that are happening to help build up some boundaries to walk in and out.
Right.
You come to my house, great. Here's my rules of what goes on. I go to yours, here's the rules that goes on there. Not I'm never going to come to your house again. And that's kind of a huge misconception. And there has to be some adjustments. Like saying earlier, we tried things. This takes time.
Yeah.
Not saying throw up a massive wall and just never talk to those people again. It takes time to figure out the adjustments of everybody being in a healthy spot and feel safe to be able to share thoughts.
Yeah.
And misconception is that, you're not able to do that. Paul rejected John Mark on one of the mission trips, and the relationships changed as people matured. John Mark learned some new things. And then Paul said, hey, let's go.
Yeah.
And the relationship over time mended and grew together because, hey, you're not ready for what I'm at right now.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's an important biblical example just to see that Paul said, no, I'm not taking you. I'm not taking you. And then years later, yes, we've matured. We've changed. We are not the same people. Come with me. That'd be great.
Because I think that's cool of what Paul says those different things a lot. He's like, I'm not ready, or I'm not prepared, or I'm not good enough to go to this or that, or I'm not, I'm a sinner just the same as you. And the relationship he talks about all the time with God, I think God prepared him in some ways. No, you can't go to Rome. I want to go to Rome. No, you can't go to Rome yet. Well, I want to go. Well, until you're ready and until my time hits, your calling is to go to this spot and to that spot. And that relationship is same as all. God does put some boundaries on us of where we go or can't go, and sometimes who we talk to and what we are able to do in life.
Yeah. So I wanted to give some hope for people who are afraid of conflict, because that is one of the things that I hear a lot from clients is that, I don't do conflict. It's like, okay, I hear you, but this doesn't have to be conflict. Right? Like it doesn't have to be something that you're fighting constantly with the other person. So Proverbs 31:30 says, charm is deceptive. And so that is something that we have to watch for. We just have to watch for people who try to charm you out of holding to your boundaries, because there are going to be people who try to talk you out of having those boundaries. And oftentimes in the Christian world or in churches, you have heard things like forgive and forget. Oh, you just need to forgive and forget. And that's a lovely saying, but it's just not reality.
Nope.
Forgiveness has to do with the past. And you can operate from a place of this happened in the past and I forgive you. But boundaries and reconciliation, that's for the present and the future. So you can forgive what someone has done and still hold boundaries and hope for reconciliation if it's the right time, if the right things have happened. And so what are those right things? Like, that's when it's hard to figure those things out. If when you confront someone and just say, here's when you're reading your script, here's where I'm at, here are the boundaries that I need, here are the things that I need from this relationship, this is my capacity, whatever your thing is, right? If that person owns their part and says, okay, I see that I have been trespassing on this boundary. I didn't know you had it. Thank you for telling me. I am so sorry. I would like to honor this boundary and move forward. If they own that part, they ask for forgiveness, that trust can be rebuilt again. Right. That can be rebuilt sometimes very quickly, and you can proceed with reconciliation and moving forward very quickly. That being said, if someone denies their part, right, if they push back against the boundary, or if they just give lip service to, oh, I'm sorry. Well, let me just do this. Right. And then can I take back over and bring my chaos back to your party? It's like, yes. Oh, wait, no. And so one of the things that we have to see so that we aren't deceived by someone's charm is the other person that you've built a boundary with, you've laid out this boundary, are they making changes? Do you see evidence in their life of them making changes, seeking help? Are they finding a therapist? Are they looking for a life coach? Are they doing the things that would allow them to not fall back into old patterns and immediately trespass that boundary again? So you can offer forgiveness to someone and still keep boundaries.
Yeah, and I think those are great points of looking out to the other person. And we've talked a lot about these different things, boundaries, but also about you personally. What are some things somebody's looking at this and going, okay, this is where they are. What about me? What's some of the things that I should be thinking about? Because I've got family situations, and what are some of the things I should be looking about me? Because me personally, I don't care about me so much because that's just how I am, and realizing I'm not healthy then and I'm not in a safe space. But what are some of the things that I should be asking myself before I start setting up these boundaries?
Yeah,
because it's going to be hard.
Yeah, I think it goes back to those 7 questions. If you don't care about yourself, right, then you are missing what Jesus did for you on the cross, because it goes back to that investment he made in your life. If you don't care about yourself, then you are doing a disservice to that act on the cross. You have to care about yourself, because he cared enough about you to put you here, to claim you, and to call you to something. And so you have to care. Yeah. And then you have to go back and just say, what is my capacity? Am I giving to too many things? Am I spread too thin? I hear you, lady from the church who wants me to bring meals for the entire week of VBS. Right. That is, yes, I hear you. That is a need. However, I cannot do that.
Well, you could, but then all of a sudden you're doing what?
You're not giving to something else. Right. You're saying yes to one thing and you're saying no to all of these other things. Right. And so you have to really evaluate, what are the things that I'm willing to say yes to, and what are the things that I'm willing to say no to. And for me, I'm willing to say yes to the 5 people that live in this house. Right. All the time, the kids, they come first. Right. They come before church. They come before my Bible study obligations. They come before all things. And so if something is going to trespass on my time with y'all, then I'm going to make sure that I'm making up for that somewhere else.
Right. Well, and that we do try to have boundaries even for ourselves, to say, hey, yes, it's time for you to take some time for yourself. Because that's what we want to create. Not just for me personally. I want to create a healthy space for me to heal from my trauma and the things I've dealt with, but also to feel like I'm in a safe space to be able to share my own opinions and to be able to work on myself. But not just me, also for you, also for the kids.
Right.
It is huge, because that's really what we're trying to do. And whenever we do continue to say yes, 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 ministry stuff, if you're plugged into a church, ministry never stops.
Never.
There's always something else to do. And that's where, if you're a volunteer in a church, you've got to put up some boundaries even in that. And I think we're going to talk about some of those things later.
Yeah.
To protect the core. And if you're not protecting the core, chaos is going to happen.
Yeah. And I think that that's important. You have to evaluate each scenario. And as you get more comfortable evaluating things, it's not a long drawn out process. No. It's just like someone says something and you're like, that is going to trespass on this very important time that I've already committed. I can't do that. Right. And you will be comfortable because you've already practiced in a safe place. You will be comfortable saying, no, I can't do that. Thank you so much for calling me. Thank you so much for thinking of me. I'm honored, but I won't be able to meet that commitment for you. And then also just recognizing that, when you've put up a boundary with a person, as opposed to, the church or a large group, when you've put up a boundary with a person and you want to start moving forward with that person, you have to be looking for significant, healthy changes in that person's thoughts, in their patterns, in their behavior, in their habits, in the way they react, and that has to happen consistently over time. And so when you start seeing those things have happened, you're going to feel different on the inside. And because you've done the work too. And so you're going to say, I feel different about this. And I feel like I do have the capacity for a healed version of what you're bringing to the table and a healed version of what I'm bringing to the table.
Right. And we know every family situation is different. And that's why we are very passionate of doing what we are doing between this podcast and sharing our stories, and also with life coaching, because we know many of you are going through maybe some of the same situations we've been going through, or a little bit different, because every family is different, because the family members that we deal with are unique and they have their own choices. And so that's why we offer life coaching and would offer that to you, because these are not simple things to do. This takes courage. This takes support. It takes a safe space.
Right.
And we want to create a safe space for you to heal from the trauma that's been going on in your life, possibly, or just how to build up some boundaries and make your life more efficient and more effective. And then also really pouring into the life that God's called you to be.
Yeah. Encourage you to live that life.
Right.
Yeah.
And so life coaching, we want to offer you that. You can go to curatedcoalition.com. You can book a free session today with us to be able to kind of talk through those situations and what might need to happen. And that's why we're doing this, is because we want to be here to help people.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for joining us for today's conversation. Our hope is that you leave reminded that whatever you're facing, you're not crushed, you're not abandoned, and you're not destroyed. That's the promise of 2 Corinthians 4:8 and 9, and the heartbeat of hope through the hard. We'll see you next time.